is a coach, a best-selling author, and a relationship therapist located in Huntington Beach, California. And Todd has been on our programs before, and I always love getting his perspective because I know he does some really, really deep work with his clients. And I'm excited to tap into your wisdom today, Todd.
Can't wait to share.
Yeah. So for this series, I'm asking our experts to share from your professional background and expertise and work with your clients. What are some of the common themes that you see or common challenges that people have that block them and keep them from having the love they desire in their lives?
Well, I think the first thing that comes to mind is that we don't have great role models for love. If you want to be a doctor, you go to medical school. If you want to be a pianist, you usually take piano lessons. If you want to be a partner with a rich love life, we got our parents. And look, our parents did the best they could. Nothing against them. Mm-hmm. But I do think we're in a state of evolution, and we're in the earlier stages of it. So we really don't have that. So we basically have learned our brains are very adaptive, and we just live very unconsciously most of the time. And we recreate what we've observed, or we recreate what we had before, and we don't mean to. But I think that becomes the biggest block to love. And we're just kind of stuck in that same frequency. And don't realize how our own internal experiences attract the same old thing.
Yeah. Oh, I think this is so important and so true for so many of us. There's a joke out there that says, we came from one of either two kinds of families, dysfunctional or really dysfunctional, right? That's the joke.
That's really probably accurate if we want to say the truth.
Yeah, there's some truth to it for sure. And so we had these role models who, as you said, were doing the best they could. Maybe they didn't have good role models, and it goes on and it goes on and it goes on. And yet those are, I guess, what we would call deep imprints from childhood, right? What we observed, what we experienced in our families of origin. And so then we get into adulthood. And this is something that I find interesting as I talk to people in my work. It's like, we think there's something wrong with us because we don't know how to do it better. It's like we just expect that by osmosis, we're going to know how to have a great relationship.
Right. I say that technology, it's like my iPhone, wherever that is, 10X. I mean, it was so new. Now it's iPhone 12. I mean, the technology advances so fast. But in terms of having healthy, connected relationships, where we learn how to deal with pain more maturely and stay connected anyway, and don't go into fight or flight or even freeze and protect us. We are such beginners. And if we don't accept we're beginners and we think we're supposed to know more, all we do is not only repeat the same mistake, but then we beat ourselves up. Like, why am I so bad at this? Because we're all dancing in the dark. We all are dancing in the dark. And if we can accept that we're dancing in the dark, we go, where do we get some light? And it's like programs like this that could help.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I love that idea. We're all dancing in the dark.
Yeah.
And, I study relationships day in and day out because I've made this my life work. And yet, the more I know, the more I realize there is to know. And of course, I've learned through the school of life, through my long and winding journey to love as a single woman. And then now, having been in a 14-year marriage, I've learned on the marriage front,
right?
In the real life laboratory, not just the book learning laboratory.
Right.
And the more I learn, the more I realize there is to know. I mean, this area of human relations and our own self-growth and development and our own transformation, if you will, it's a lifelong process.
Yes, absolutely. It is. And you're so right. I was doing a meditation this morning. He kept talking about something I've heard before, which is beginner's mind. We're always beginners. And I've been married now 36 years. And just the other night, I was like, whoa, I just learned something about me. I had no clear idea of why I kept doing the same not so helpful reaction. So we're still learning. And and the more we're curious, and the more we have that beginner's mind, the more we learn, which is great. Things can get better that way. It's the only way.
Yeah.
But we don't want to beat ourselves up for not having a healthy relationship, or if we're single, not having found that person yet. You will, but we need to do the inner work, and we need to be curious, and we need to be kind to ourselves in the process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, and I think if there was one, I guess, silver lining, maybe there's more, but one that I can cite that has come from the 2020 experience is for a lot of the people that I've had the privilege of working with during 2020 was a chance to go within. It was a chance to have life slow down a little bit in the way that we were used to. Maybe our schedules cleared, maybe we're working from home, maybe things just shifted or changed in a way where instead of just being so much in the pattern of the routine day to day of what someone was doing, there was a bit of an opportunity for them to have that pause.
Absolutely.
And Todd, I think this is actually one of the patterns that also keeps people single, and I'll let you comment on this, or keeps them from having the love they desire, is we're so busy doing the same things. It's like we're on autopilot.
Yes.
And we never break out of those patterns that could potentially create new opportunity for connection or for meeting someone, or our schedules or our routines are so full. We might not have time for someone if we met them.
Sometimes people come to my session, Michelle, and they'll start, whether it's an individual or a couple, and this is the first time we've slowed down all week. And I go, well, that's great, but you're gonna have to slow down every day. Now it might be 10 minutes, but we need to slow down, because you're right. If we don't slow down, we keep doing the same thing. In order to make changes, we need to get curious about ourselves. We need to slow down. I know personally for me in 2020, like I've been meditating since I've been 18 on and off, but I would say it's as much off, if not more off than on. But since COVID-19, I missed a day or two here or there, but basically daily meditation. I mean, that was a gift of 2020 and COVID. And believe me, it's terrible. But the silver lining was just what you said. And we do need to stop and slow down and take a look. Because like you asked me, what's the biggest block? It's basically our automatic unconscious patterns that we learned and adapted to. Again, not our fault, when we were younger. In order to break out of those patterns, in order to develop a new consciousness, to tune into a new frequency, it takes us slowing down and doing something different internally so that we could attract someone differently externally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can recall back when I was single, because I led a very rich and full life, which I think is a good thing, by the way. But there were times that I was so busy, and I feel like in retrospect, and of course hindsight's 2020, but I feel like in retrospect, part of the reason I was keeping myself on what could even be called a frenetic pace was because then I didn't have to really acknowledge or feel the pain that was there from this void in my life of what I really desired. It was like, as long as I was so busy doing things and involving myself with other things and staying so busy, it was like I could kind of keep that at bay. I could kind of keep it subdued down there. Now, there were times when I was single when this would come to the surface, and sometimes it would startle me at how significant and how profound this pain was that I was stuffing down in. Yes. And it's been interesting because as I've worked with clients over the years, there've been a number of times when I've kind of observed that perhaps they're doing the same thing and have said, dating, if you want to meet someone and develop a relationship, dating also may have to rise up a bit on that priority list of how you structure your time. Because, for example, with one client, she would be meeting someone online, and then she would be setting up the date 3-4 weeks later, because that was as soon as she could fit him into her schedule.
Right. No, you're right. I mean, in order for this to work, in order for anything to work, we need to pay attention to it. We need to make it a priority. We can't prioritize everything at the same time, but we need to prioritize dating. Again, it's part of the process when I talk with men and women, especially because I seem to have more women than men in this realm. Part of the whole dating process is for them to slow down and to tune into themselves. But the other part of dating is, put some energy into it, schedule it, be courageous, and create some space and time for it, just like you would for working out, for yoga, for work, for seeing family. We gotta create space for it. But I do think that one of the reasons people don't make space for it is because they have fear. They're avoiding it. They expect the same negative result they got in the past. So these all, we just magically, I forgot to do it. Another day, another week. But it really is like it's a running from the pain again, rather than, oh wait, I'm scared. Okay, I'm scared. What am I scared about? All right. Oh, I know. I'm afraid I'm going to get into, oh yeah. I have this expectation in my head that it's going to be the same old thing. So why bother? Oh, wow. I didn't realize I had that, So there might be a part of them that really wants to go date, but there's another part of them that's going, no, I don't want to do it. It's going to be the same old disappointment. And they're expecting disappointment. And what I do, I help these people recognize that and recognize that that's just a thought. That doesn't have to run them anymore. And that it comes from history. I understand that. But they're going to write a new history in the future. And it starts with them rethinking what dating even is. It's an opportunity to me, for them, I tell them, it's an opportunity for them to practice being more of who they are and more free and more liberated as people as they go forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good way to look at it, and kind of like decreases the pressure a little bit on dating, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's another thing that I find too, is if people have been through, and we're speaking mainly to women here, but if people have been through a number of relationships that maybe haven't worked out or have been disappointing or they have been hurt, you're right, they're going to potentially have that expectation that that's the way the next thing is going to go. And so there will be a fear, and that can hold them back, although sometimes they don't even recognize it. It's more on the unconscious level. They're not necessarily identifying it that way. So I think this is a good opportunity for people that are listening to check in and see, are you feeling like you're going around with one foot on the gas and one foot on the brakes here?
Exactly.
And going like this, like a start and a stop and a start and a stop. Then that may be something to examine. And usually, and you're probably more of an expert on this than I am, because I know you've really worked with a lot of people in overcoming their fears, but usually when we shine the light in those dark corners and we really look at those fears, they're not as scary as they seem. Like the monster under the bed. If you shine the flashlight, it's not really much there.
Absolutely true. Absolutely true. And, sometimes, since, like say, it's unconscious, we have little clues, and the clues is in the avoidance. It's like, I'm avoiding. Let's look at that. That avoidance is a communication from somewhere inside of me. I'm avoiding that. That means that even though I'm saying I want to do this, and I do, there's a part of me that doesn't want to do this. So let me shine a light on that part of me that doesn't want to do this and love it. I always think of the word love as the closest synonym to the word love is attention. So we start to pay attention to those parts of us. And when we shine a light on it, we take its power away, and then we become more unified. The parts of us become more unified. It's like, okay, I got that. I know there's part of me that expected the same old thing and disappointed, but now I could see that I could imagine a wonderful future, and that I am being more of me, and I'm taking all the skills that I've learned and all the awareness I have, and I'm going to go forward. So now I'm more unanimous. And then they go, and somehow dating becomes not only more fun, but they find more opportunities, more success because they're unified in it. So it's obviously there's things going on out there, but we got to look into here because what's going on in here has a lot to do with what's going on out there. And we don't ever want to blame ourselves. That's not the idea. Like, oh, it's not going well. Todd Creager said there's something going on. It must be something wrong with me. No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that you will have to maybe kiss a few frogs before you hit princes. That's going to happen no matter what. But you just always want to check in. Like, what is there a part of me that doesn't want to do this? Is there a part of me that's expecting failure? And we look for it. And we shine that light, like you said, on it. So,
yeah. Yeah. And I think, you know, we don't want to blame ourselves, but we can learn from patterns that may have shown up in past relationships or some of the experiences that we've had in ways that can empower us, not in a blame or shame kind of a way, but in a way that we can say, okay, what have I observed? Because we are a common denominator in all of our past relationships.
right.
And we can say, what have I learned, or what can I observe that can help me for the future? Not to beat ourselves up and say, oh my gosh, look at all the stupid things I did. Because I will say in my own love life, you know, I shot myself in the foot so many times. It's a wonder I could walk. Right. I mean, I feel like that's one of the reasons why I can help other women, because I've been there, done there, bought that T-shirt. You know, I understand. I get it. I've lived it. But it's not valuable for us to beat ourselves up and, you know, hit ourselves with 1,000 lashes for the mistakes.
And it's actually even inaccurate in a way, because there's reasons why you did shoot yourself in the foot. I mean, it's not your fault. You know, we're all in this learning together. Like I said, we're dancing in the dark. We're trying to find the light. We have parents and grandparents as role models. That's not helping us very much. And so we got to be patient and appreciate. Of course, we shot ourselves in the foot. What else are we going to do? What else are we going to do until we learn and shine a light inside of ourselves, like you said, and start to recognize that, you know, one of the things that I have found with some clients is even past trauma that has kind of set this process in motion, even childhood trauma. And why blame ourselves for something that happened? You know, a person that grew up in a family, for example, where, I mean, trauma could be in the form of molest, abuse, but it could even be what we call attachment trauma, when a child had to be the caretaker for everybody. Like, everybody was so out of control that they had to be serious and they had to be the caretaker. And what they did in that process is forgot about themselves. I have a client like that right now. She just forgot about herself. And so what happens? She ends up being with men who are all about them, who she's got to emotionally take care of, and they and her forget about her. And the same old negative result happens. She comes to see me. Now, with her and many of my clients, and we could do this virtually, as I learned in 2020, there's a lot we could do virtually that I used to think you could only do face-to-face, but it is solely not true, is a process called EMDR, which stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. And I'm saying it here with you because I have found that some of my single women who have continued to be frustrated about past relationships and having negative expectations, or in her case, not only expecting the worst, but also terrified of being alone, because her whole way in life was to take care of others. So if I have no one to take care of, what happens to me? And now she was between relationships. What we did with her is this process, EMDR, which is a way of going back into her childhood, pick a few kind of symbolic memories that led her to have these ideas about herself that unconsciously maybe, that I'm a caretaker and that's what I do. And we help process them so they're finished. And then she's blossoming. I saw her this week actually, earlier this week. And she was saying how this man who is now, you know, wanting to date her, and she was able to set boundaries and be assertive. I've never said things like what I said to him. You're coming on too strong. You got to back off. If you could handle it, then maybe we could do something. If you can't handle it, then maybe we're not right for each other. She never would say those things before because she didn't feel her value standing alone. So it's another thing that I do. And like I said, you can do it virtually and you can do it face to face. And there are ways for us to overcome these things. And in her case, she learned it's not my fault. I don't have to be hard on myself. I've been that way for a reason. And now I'm processing them and moving on from them. And now she's freer to be what I would say is more herself and set boundaries and ask, what do I want? What do I want in a man, but even outside of that? She's going to go after taking singing lessons this week. That's what her homework was. She never asked about what do I want? She's too busy taking care of everybody. So anyway.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Yeah, it's wonderful to be able to help people and empower them in this way. And we don't have to stay in the same old patterns. And so we're giving a message of hope here, which I think is really, really important for so many people, no matter what has happened or hasn't happened to this point.
It can be overcome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's really the whole intention of this series, is to really give people hope, really give people an opportunity to say, there is hope, and I can have the kind of life that I really want, and I can take care of those things that, might be holding me back. For a lot of clients, I see, it seems like a lot of times just bringing things to the surface or shining that light that we were talking about, that's the first big step. In fact, in some cases that completely takes care of it. In some cases there's more work to do, but in some cases, recognizing what it is and realizing they have a choice about that. Absolutely. They no longer have to have that running the show. That alone can make a huge difference.
Yeah, it's good. It's good stuff you're doing here. And it's good stuff we're both doing, and you see the potential of people, that we do have more capacity inside of us to feel worthy of receiving. And when we feel worthy of receiving more and more and more, and we become what I call, and I think I've mentioned it with you before, healthily selfish. We start to ask, what is it that I need and want? That we don't just slip into and stay into a relationship because the person seems to like us in the very beginning. We're asking for more. It's easy to like you in the beginning when you're not asking much of them, but when the pain hits or when you're frustrated with them, how do they handle that? And are you going to stay true to yourself and not just adapt so that they don't leave, but instead you're true to yourself, so you end up being with a person who is mature, or at least willing to become mature. We're in the process of becoming. And I think there's a lot of hope, and we have so much more. I've said this for years. I've been doing this stuff for over 35 years now. I've been saying over 30 years for too long now. So I have to say over 35 years. And I'm more optimistic about how amazing committed relationships can become. But it all starts with, how am I, again, I'm worthy of receiving. Yes, it's good to give, but I also need to ask for what I want and be open to having what I want, and definitely have boundaries of what was unacceptable. Mm-hmm. There might be things that I used to accept, but not anymore.
Right. Right. And I think for a lot of women, what you just said there is so key, because I think a lot of women have kind of, like your client, have kind of lost track of what they really want, what's really more important to them. Because I think a lot of us as women, maybe through our background or family of origin, we're raised to be people pleasers, we're raised to be givers, and that's beautiful. That's a good thing. And it's just got to have that balance, right? Where we also are in tune with what our needs are, and we're also able to articulate those and ask for what we want. And like you said, not have the boundaries collapse when someone comes along that likes us, or because we feel pressure, or because we think we have to collapse who we are in order to attract or keep them.
Exactly. When I was doing a lot of training in the last few years to other therapists and how to work with couples, then the last name of my talk was called The I and the We. because it's important in every relationship to have my I and the we. Of course I need to give, and of course I need to think of us as a couple and you as a person, but I can't lose my I. We need to have our I, and oftentimes my I, what I want might be different than what my wife wants, but we need to both be strong, and of course we need to compromise, and we need to choose to yield. But choosing to yield is different than giving in out of fear. I choose to yield because I can't always have my way, and neither can you. So it's a combination of the I and the we that's really important. And that's a really important thought that I have my single women think about, that, I need to think about me. What do I want? This woman is like, you're coming on too strong. That's not what I want. And so far, he's willing to stretch and deal with it. So far, so good. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, and I'm glad you brought that up too, because I think one of the biggest fears for both single women and probably single men, I don't work as much with single men, is that they will lose themselves in the context of a relationship. I've had that conversation so many times. Mm-hmm. And I had a bit of that too when I was single, because I, out of necessity, I was strong, independent, self-sufficient. I was making my way in the world, and there was a bit of a fear because I didn't get married until I was in my early 40s. There was a bit of a fear that I was going to lose this autonomy or this independence or this identity that I built.
Yeah.
And, my husband he wasn't my husband then, but he had some of those fears too. And so, when we understand that if we're clear about who we are, and we're clear about what our boundaries are, and we're clear about what our needs are, and we have the courage and the confidence to ask for those things, we're not going to get ourselves into a relationship where we're going to lose that identity. And in fact, like you, I don't have the longevity of marriage that you do, but I've been in one long enough now to say, I think that the relationship that I have with my husband actually expands what is possible for both of us. Like, I feel like we have more freedom to explore things because it's kind of like we have each other as kind of that support underneath whatever it is we're doing. We don't feel like we're doing it alone. We can support each other through kind of the ups and downs that life inevitably has.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
It's all a learning experience, both dating and being in a committed relationship. Mm-hmm. I call them great gymnasiums to develop emotional muscle, and we need to, even learning how to listen, it's been one of my, even though I'm a marriage therapist, I think that's been my primary lesson. I have to learn how to listen to my wife when she says something that I don't like. Right? I have to make room for her and me. Again, the I and the we.
Yeah, the I and the we. I like that. That's beautiful. Well, Todd, it's always so fun to talk to you. I feel like I could talk to you for a very long time and really enjoy it, because I always feel like you bring some really interesting things to the forefront here in our conversations.
You're just always so wonderful to talk with. So
thank you so much. And for everybody watching, we hope to see you for more, and lots of love and blessings. Bye for now.